A research proposal by Stacy Donald, Impartial Fulfillment for EDU 720. Thank you for taking the time to view this video presentation. The purpose of this study will be to examine both self-perceptions of students with disabilities and faculty perceptions of students with disabilities in order to explore the impact of perceived or existing perceptions of students with disabilities in higher education. About 11% of students who enrolled in post-secondary institutions also registered with the institution's disability office because of a disability. However, with this being said, not all students who have a disability will register with the college's disability office due to stigma or other concerns associated with having a disability. The overall reaching question for this research topic is, what is the impact of perceived or existing perceptions of students with disabilities in higher education? Students with disabilities face barriers such as stigma, attitudinal, social marginalizations, and other types of discrimination. Students with disabilities are not always willing to register with the institution's disability office due to fear of stigma and discriminatory treatment. Students with disabilities, when registered with the disabilities office, choose not to utilize their accommodations due to fear of stigma and discriminatory treatment. Other barriers include a lack of resources, misconceptions, and a lack of awareness or understanding students with disabilities experienced when working with faculty, staff, and administrators. However, according to research by Winneden and his associates, the leading reason that students with disabilities do not seek help or accommodations when attending a post-secondary institution is the fear of experiencing discrimination and stigma. This study will provide insight into the barriers that occur with stigma. For example, students who are hesitant to register with the disabilities office. Why is this? What happened that finally made a student who was at first hesitant to overcome the barrier finally decide to register with the disabilities office? Some students register but never use their accommodation. Why? Did they find out they don't need them? Are they not approaching their instructors because of fear or stigma of discrimination? Students with disabilities that have a perception of existing stigma or experience attitudinal barriers by other students or instructors, does this lead to low class attendance, poor grades, low retentions, and graduation rates? The type of quantitative design research that will be utilized in my study would be considered correlational research design because I hope to investigate the relationship between pre-existing groups of students that are registered with the Access Office and using their accommodations with students who are registered with the Access Office but not using those accommodations. I would also like to investigate the perceptions of faculty and staff when it comes to students with disabilities and perceived stigma. The guiding question for this research is, what is the impact of perceived or existing perceptions of students with disabilities in higher education? Followed by 3 research questions. The first question being, what is the impact of perceived or existing perceptions of faculty, staff, and part-time instructors regarding students with disabilities registering with the Access Office? Number 2, what is the impact of perceived or existing perceptions of faculty, staff, and part-time instructors regarding students with disabilities registered with the Access Office and utilizing their accommodations? And 3, what is the impact of or perceived impact or existing perceptions of faculty, staff, and part-time instructors regarding students with disabilities registered with the Access Office utilizing student resource such as tutoring or joining college organizations? Participants for this study will include students with disabilities that are registered with the Disabilities Office. and attending the community college used in the study. Additionally, faculty, staff, and part-time instructors from the same community college will be surveyed in order to further assess any perceived or existing perceptions. The community college utilized in the study is a small community college with about an average enrollment of approximately 4,500 students. For the purpose of this study, I hope to sample approximately 125 to 150 students registered with the Access Office, which would be equal to about 25% of the registered students at the Access Office and approximately a total of 50 to 75 participants, which equals about 10% of the faculty, staff, and part-time instructors who work with students. With this being said, approximately 10% of the student population is registered with the Access Office, and there are approximately 80 full-time faculty members, 200 staff members, and 250 part-time faculty members. The sampling procedures that will be used in this study will consist of purposive sampling utilizing the Access Office as a resource to recruit students with disabilities for this study. The goal for the researcher of this study is to obtain approximately 10% of the student population that is registered with the Access Office. A simple random sampling will be used to select approximately 10% of the full-time faculty members, staff, and part-time faculty members that work directly with the students. For example, maintenance workers will not be asked to participate in this study as a staff member. However, staff who directly work with students, such as the academic advisor, they would be asked to participate. The instruments that will be utilized by this researcher will be both historical data such as GPA, retention, and graduation rates. And the surveys that will be used will be created by the researcher. The historical data that will be collected from existing data sources will be considered secondary quantitative data that will aid in determining the relationships and trends that are established in the primary quantitative research, which will be found in the surveys. The survey that will be created for students with disabilities will include the following scales: 5 through 1. 5 equals strongly agree, 4 agree, 3 somewhat agree or disagree, 2 disagree, and 1 strongly disagree. The questions for this survey, as well as the scale, is still in the developmental stages. However, some of the questions that possibly could be used for the student survey are as follows. 1. I was hesitant to register with the Access Office because I did not want to be viewed differently by my instructors. 2. I was hesitant to register with the Access Office because I did not want to be viewed differently by my peers. Next, instructors view me differently because of my disability. Another one, I feel that using my accommodations have contributed to my success. Next, the accommodations that I receive meet my needs. Next, I am not comfortable with requesting to use my accommodations with my instructors. And another one, instructors treat me as they would any other student. Questions will continue in this manner. The survey used for full-time faculty, staff members, and part-time faculty is also still in the developmental stages and would probably use the following scale: 5 strongly agree, 4 agree, 3 somewhat agree or disagree, 2 disagree, and 1 strongly disagree. Some of the questions that I'm considering for this survey include: 1. If an instructor disagrees with an approved accommodation for a student, they can deny the accommodation at any time. 2. I know which students have disabilities. 3, I think there are some students who are not aware that they have a disability. 4, it is hard for disabled students to concentrate on lessons. Followed by, I believe that students with disabilities who use their accommodations are more likely to meet the demands of their coursework. Next, I find that some students with disabilities do not request to use their accommodations. Followed by, I believe that other students resent the accommodations used by students with disabilities. And there's other questions too that I am working on. Once I finish creating the surveys and obtaining approval from the community college, I would use a secure internet source such as SurveyMonkey or another preferred source that the college may want me to utilize to send out the survey to all the participants. I would use both email and the college's learning management system, which is Canvas, to contact potential participants to see if they would be willing to participate in the study. In my initial communication with potential participants, I would include sample questions, a brief explanation regarding what the study is, and also a description regarding the confidentiality of the survey. Once I have my plan in place to begin collecting the data and sending out the surveys, I will need to first contact the community college's IBR committee to obtain approval for the study. However, I will need to be ready to describe the study and its potential participants, provide them the survey questions that will be utilized in a study, and obtain approval to retrieve any historical data that I would like to utilize in a study. Furthermore, the IBR committee will request that I provide copies of any confidentiality statements or other materials that I will be using in the study. This researcher will use the raw data from surveys to conduct data and analysis along with other types of data such as GPA, retention rates, and graduation rates. A table or graph will be created in order to summarize and analyze the information from the surveys, and the information from the surveys will be coded so I will be able to look for familiar themes throughout the survey. Ultimately, I plan to use a numerical analysis of the data that is collected from the surveys that will allow for me to determine to what degree self-concept of students with disabilities have on their GPA, retention rates, and graduation rates. I plan to utilize both Excel and the SPSS program to track data and will use cross-tabulation to investigate the relationship between self-concept and academic achievement among students with disabilities. I am hoping to arrange the study in a way that will allow me to use the SPSS to develop maybe a chi-square test or to use the t-test to measure the results from the collected data, depending on how I choose to set up the survey questions and the collected data, providing the GPA, retention, and graduation rates that I plan to use. The results of this study will be important to the college because it'll provide insight into the various perceptions regarding student achievement for students with disabilities. Additionally, this study will provide insight into why students may or may not feel comfortable registering with the Access Office or requesting to use their approved accommodations after they have registered with us. Studies such as this one have the potential to provide information that will assist colleges with increasing both retention and graduation rates of students with disabilities without compromising the integrity of the course or degree programs. References used are as follows. Thank you for taking the time to view this research proposal. Any feedback that you could provide to assist me would be greatly appreciated. Once again, thank you.